Hey there. I get lots of questions from viewers all the time about different things relating to saxophones. So today's video is going to be a bit of Q&A. We're going to talk about Altissimo, overtones, squeaking, mouthpieces, and some other things. Hey there, better sax players. My name is Jay Metcalf, and on this channel I make videos to help you become an even better sax player. If you like this sort of content and want to help me create more of it, be sure to click the thumbs up button, subscribe, and comment below, even if it's just to say, hey dude, nice video. I don't do Patreon or anything like that, but I do have some very nice courses for sale on my website, BetterSax.com. They're designed to help you learn how to play the saxophone by ear and improvise solos in popular music styles. Sign up for my free Play Sax by Ear crash course to get an idea of what my approach is all about. Link in the description below. Our first question comes from none other than Charlie Parker. Really, I'm not making this up. Charlie Parker writes, after watching your playing on YouTube, I blah, 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 blah. I don't know Altissimo yet. How important is it after 2.5 years of playing? I asked Charlie, and yes, it's his real name. Okay, first, if your name is Charlie Parker, you may want to choose an instrument other than the saxophone when you're starting out. There's a lot of pressure there. Like, if your name is Bill Evans, you don't go and choose the piano. If your name happens to be Avishai Cohen, you're really running out of choices. You better hurry up and pick something. Okay, back to Charlie Parker's question about Altissimo and if it's important to be able to play in the Altissimo range after 2.5 years of playing the saxophone. Here's my take. Altissimo is pretty far down on the list of important things you need to be able to do on the saxophone. Despite that, I've already made 2 full videos here on YouTube about how to play in the Altissimo range. I will link to them in the card up on the screen and in the description below. It's one of those things everybody wants to know about for some reason. Before you should start putting any significant practice time into learning the Altissimo, you need to first be able to play with a strong sound over the entire range of your instrument, the normal range. You need to be able to play with clean, smooth technique over the entire normal range of your instrument. And you want to be able to play your overtones on your low B flat, B, and low C, let's say. There is no time limit for when to start playing Altissimo and when you need to know how to play in the Altissimo range. You know, there's so many other things to learn on saxophone and about music that you can leave out Altissimo entirely and nobody will probably ever notice. And by the way, the original Charlie Parker, he very rarely played in the Altissimo range. I guess he didn't feel like he needed it. As Larry Teal says in his book, The Art of Playing Saxophone, if these tones can be produced with beauty, good intonation, and accurate control, they are a boon to the instrument. However, if the result is merely an unmusical squeak of uncertain pitch, the reputation of both the saxophone and the performer will suffer. So worry about the other really difficult things to do on the saxophone first. If Altissimo is really important to you, then yeah, get ready to put some significant study into it. But it's not really all that important. Okay, Lane Gandy writes, what size reeds would you recommend if a 3 is too hard for me to produce a sound with and a 2.5 squeaks when I get to a high G or higher on tenor? Okay, Lane, and I replied to Lane, check that your reed is making a good seal with the mouthpiece. Squeaks are usually due to a poor seal. So let me go a little bit more in depth. I've had a few people ask me about squeaking lately. Yeah, this is a common thing, especially when you're starting out. If you're getting squeaks when you play the saxophone, the first thing you want to check is your mouthpiece and reed setup. You need to have a really good seal. I'm going to demonstrate. This is the last thing you do. I'm going to link to my video about how to put a reed on the right way. It's really, 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 really important that everybody does this every time. Okay, have a look there. My reed is well centered and lined up at the tip. I still take my time though and make sure I get it exactly right every time. If ever I don't get it right, if I put on a reed and start playing and there's something strange about the sound, or I start getting squeaks or something, I know it has to do with how my reed is on the mouthpiece. So make sure you watch that video that I linked to, but let me just quickly go over the process. First, make sure your reed is in good condition. No chips or splits. I also recommend using a Reed Geek tool to flatten the table of your reed. I do it every time before playing. Okay, a few passes with that. You've got to wet it. You got to wet the back part of the reed. A dry reed is going to squeak. So we take some moisture from our wet reed and we put it on the table of the mouthpiece, and we slip the reed in. And now we take our time and make sure it is perfectly centered. When you get it all set up nicely, tighten up your ligature, not too tight. That's my suction test. If I ever get a squeak sound, it's almost always due to a dried out reed or a misaligned reed. Okay, next question is from Kirk. Kirk writes, "Good morning. I had been playing sax for many years, but took a break for quite a while, and now I am playing again. I am trying to get consistent low notes. Are practicing long tones the way to develop playing C, B, B flat, where it comes out clean? Do I need more air? My setup on tenor is Jody Jazz HR7 Star or Jody Jazz Metal 6 with Java 2.5 reed. Thanks for any advice." I made a video about how to get low notes out a while back, so I will link to that as well in the description below and on the on-screen card. For me, there are three main components to getting the low notes out consistently, and number one is air. So you asked, do I need more air? Probably. You need a consistent and well-supported airstream to get the low notes out, especially on tenor. It's big. The air has to travel a long way to get down to these low B, B flat, C. Now, especially with a 7-star tip opening that you're using, you need quite a lot of air just to get that reed vibrating for those low notes. Practicing long tones down there is going to help out a tremendous amount. The second component to this is going to be your embouchure. You need to, that reed is vibrating at like a lower frequency on those low notes, right? So you really need to allow that reed to vibrate. Do not put too much pressure on the reed. That will cut off the vibration. That will just make things harder for yourself. So when you're practicing your long tones, you're working on finding the balance between being really relaxed and you basically want to be as relaxed as you can to let that reed vibrate. You want your bottom lip to be a nice big fat cushion of flesh for that reed to vibrate on freely, and with the air support behind it, you'll get those low notes to come out consistently. But yes, it does take practice. So make sure you have the air support and you're nice and relaxed and open here. Let the reed vibrate and let the air do all the work. Now, the third element to all of this is having a saxophone that is where the pads are sealing relatively well. But be careful with this one. It's very tempting to blame our equipment. I get messages from people all the time. "Oh, should I take my saxophone into the repairman because I can't get this note out or that note out?" I have to look at your horn, obviously, to tell you, but most of the time, the answer is probably no. Don't fall into the trap of saying, "Oh, I can't get these low notes out. Something must be wrong with my saxophone." even if your saxophone has several minor leaks in it, you're still going to be able to get those low notes out if you're doing everything technically correct with your air and your embouchure, etc., and you have a good setup with your mouthpiece and reed. Let me tell you a story. Once there was this great saxophone player, and he asked me to overhaul his saxophone. And the night before he came over to my shop, I saw him playing in a club, and he was just killing it on stage, all over the horn, up and down, like there was no, like it was in perfect playing condition. And he brought the horn over the next day to me, and I stuck the leak like down the bore, and it was leaking everywhere. It was in horrible, horrible condition. And I said to myself, how does this saxophone even play? How do you even play this thing? It's leaking so badly. He had really, really good technique, and he used a lot of air. So good technique and a good airstream is going to overcome leaks in your instrument. So be careful about blaming the equipment. First, make sure your technique is where it needs to be. Marcel writes, some overtones sound sharp, like really sharp. Should I just let it naturally sound sharp as it would, or should I keep on abusing my mouth? So if you've noticed this, that means you're, number one, practicing your overtones, which is good, and number two, you're playing with a tuner, which is also very good. I made a video not too long ago just about overtones. I will link to it in the description below. Check that one out if you want more information on how to play your overtones and why we practice them. Now, to answer your question, some overtones are naturally out of tune in nature. It's just the way the frequencies work. So even if you removed all the other variables about your instrument and your embouchure and your reed and mouthpiece and all that stuff, you'd still have some difficulty playing all of the overtones perfectly in tune. In the famous book, Top Tones for Saxophone by Sigurd Rascher, he says, as the natural overtones are in natural pitch, not all of them fit into our tempered scale. Therefore, the overtones 7, 11, 13, and 14 will be found to be markedly off tune. On the saxophone, overtones of the gamut built on low B flat are quite well in tune, except for 7, 11, 13, and 14, because the instrument's proportions are mainly related to this basic tone. Other overtone gamuts are in tune only a few steps beyond their fundamental tone. When you're practicing overtones on saxophone, there is the tendency for them to be a little bit sharp, or sometimes quite a bit sharp. This is probably a result of our tendency to pinch and put a little more pressure than is actually necessary on the reed when we're trying to go for these really high overtones. So yes, relax your embouchure. Again, less pressure here. Let the air do the work. Let the shape of your throat kind of find the overtones. Don't pinch them out. Don't bite them out. Don't squeeze them out here. Let the air do the work. And above all, don't worry too much if they're not perfectly in tune. It doesn't really matter. Okay, that's all the time we've got for today. Please put your questions in the comments section below, or just say hi. Don't forget to click the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Share this video with anyone else who may be interested. Thank you for watching, and see you in another video, one that's over here.